This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Yes, and welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. My name is Harry Wilkinson. I'm your host, and this is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks, events, happenings in the world of health, science, politics, international news, everything that affects our lives, and we take a look at it from a higher perspective. And from a higher perspective, we're talking about a perspective that helps us to deal with information, ideas, situations that we might find disturbing, or we might find alarming or distressing. Quite often, when you hear news, whether it's on the radio or you're watching it on cable television or you come across it online, quite often the headlines or the information that's being imparted is designed to, well, number one, to catch your attention, and it generally does so by pushing your buttons, by making you concerned, or making you even frightened or angry. Probably anger is the biggest manipulative tool that the media use today, because unfortunately there's a lot of anger out there. I'm not saying that there isn't a just cause for it, but anger gets inflamed often by statements by people in the media who would use it to perhaps gin up outrage, or just to get attention for themselves, or perhaps attention for a cause. So all of that, while often there are good reasons, and often there are good causes that need to be addressed, but the overuse, I think, of anger causes, I think, distress, both spiritually and mentally. And so we, in just as a self-care kind of thing, we find it more and more necessary, I think, to be able to protect yourself from these the onslaught, if you will, of information. And protecting yourself, and maybe not so much protecting as learning how to cope with it, deal with it, transform it into something useful. And that's what I do here on this show. I take a look at situations, news stories that seem to be troubling, and we take a look at it, dissect it, go into it, and realize these things for what they are, which are manifestations. They're illusions, basically. It's not the truth of who and what we are, but we create these sort of illusory situations in order to experience certain feelings, certain ideas that, at our highest level of being, we don't experience, because in order to experience them, you have to have feelings of, powerlessness, of helplessness, of stress, all of those things. So, in a very real way, although I'm talking from a metaphysical point of view, but in a very real way, we put ourselves into these situations. We say to ourselves that, I'm so stressed, or I'm so tired, or I can't cope, things like that. And we find out at the end of it all that, you know what? That's not the truth of us. That's not the truth of who we are. And so, in going into a situation that you might find troubling or overwhelming, and feeling that, and then taking that feeling and going within it, and recognizing the truth, recognizing that it's all an illusion that you've created to help you reconnect with your highest self. Well, that's a very empowering tool. And so that's what I talk about a lot on this show. Of course, topics have been ranging from, what's happening in the political world, to scientific breakthroughs, to spirituality and religion, which I spoke about last week. This particular show, we're going to be focusing on the wellness aspect of things, and particularly mental wellness. Now, what is mental wellness? Does that mean mental health? Well, yes, in a way. It's certainly the antithesis of mental illness. But mental wellness is, like wellness as a term in general, has to do with the interconnection of all aspects of a person and the person's environment. Too often mental health is approached just like with our physical health. It's approached from a limited perspective. If you have anxiety or depression or bipolar illness or whatever you might have, and increasingly in the last 10 to 20 years, the approach has been to medicate and keep medicating. A lot of people who suffer with mental illnesses are put on specific kinds of drugs, and they try different drugs, and quite often it takes quite a long time, even years, to find the right combination of drugs that somehow works for them. However, it used to be that therapy, talking, exploring those feelings, expressing those feelings, finding outlets for them, was the main way of treating mental illness. That has decreased over the years as more emphasis has been put on medication, because, and the reason for this is there's been research was done, and it became to be almost a common kind of belief that most mental illnesses were caused by chemical imbalances in the brain. And while there may be some truth to that, that's not quite accurate. Let's just say that. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at some research that's been done on that idea of the chemical imbalance in the brain. But basically, when mental illness is looked at that way, as a chemical imbalance, then what you do is find drugs to right the imbalance. And that has been, unfortunately, I think, although there's been success for sure, that's been the main emphasis in treating mental illness for quite some time. That, I believe, is beginning to change, just because the drugs that are being used tend to have rather tough side effects, and more research is being done that's showing that they may or may not be as effective as they ought to be. So, let's move on. In our topic here, we're also going to talk about other aspects of health, because all of these aspects tend to work together for your own mental wellness. But I want to talk about spirituality's role in that, because spiritual wellness, a sense of spiritual wellness, is part of mental wellness. And of course, one of the biggest factors that you deal with is stress in your life. Stress can trigger depression, anxiety, lower self-esteem, all of those things. And so dealing with stress becomes a very important factor. So how do you deal with stress? Well, one very concrete way to do that is to have a pet. Studies have shown that owning a pet can really have a very positive effect on lowering blood pressure, increasing your self-esteem, and lowering your stress level. There's all kinds of therapy that makes use of animals, dogs, horses. I've heard of dolphin treatments too. That can be very helpful in physical and mental disorders. And there are programs that promote, animal-assisted therapy to increase self-esteem and help patients develop trust and better social skills. Those are all, things like trust and social skills are all things that are affected by, your mental wellness. So, the downside to that, of course, is that owning a pet can also, cause stress, because you do have to take care of the pet, and you have to make sure the pet is well, and make sure the pet is fed, and all of those things. So, while it has positive benefits, if you're not a pet kind of person, or you feel like that might be a little too much for you, you might want to just maybe pay a visit to a local animal shelter, spend some time there, meet some pets, and kind of feel it out. If you